Alright, so today we're diving into the newest episode of Silo, and let me tell you, if you thought things were slow before, this episode doesn't just shift gears, we get some Dom Toretto hitting the Nas type action with this one. So as always guys, let's break it all down, one chaotic twist at a time. So we start things off with Juliet being on a mission to MacGyver some diving gear, and Solo's tagging along enthusiastically oversharing about circuses, like a kid brother who won't shut up about Minecraft while you're frantically cramming for finals. Solo's quirky pre-Silo Earth and his 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea references are raising eyebrows. I mean, is this guy a treasure trove of knowledge or just plain suspicious? Either way, he's annoying the shit out of Julie, but he is also quite entertaining. The reference to this book though is super fascinating, especially when you dig into the story of Captain Nemo. He's this enigmatic figure piloting a cutting-edge submarine called the Nautilus. His whole mission is all about pursuing scientific discovery while completely isolating himself from the rest of the world. The catch is anyone who stumbles onto his ship, well, they're not getting off. They are trapped there forever. But here's where it gets even more interesting, because Nemo isn't just some random recluse. He's in self-imposed exile after his homeland was invaded and his people annihilated by imperialist power. Now think about how that connects to the Silo. Could the story of Nautilus and Captain Nemo serve as a metaphor for the Silo itself? A hidden, isolated world built to protect its inhabitants from external threats, but at the same time trapping them inside? And just like Nemo, could the Silo be the result of some catastrophic loss or act of oppression, forcing its creators into exile? I mean, there are definitely some thought-provoking parallels here. I mean, you guys let me know what you think down in the comments below. Juliet brushes off Solo when he mentions a harmonium. Little episode title drop there. But turns out this old instrument might be the key to her project and eventually takes his advice, using its bellows for her DIY diving rig. While Juliet is busy sketching out plans for the diving equipment on the chalkboard in a classroom, Solo decides to share a bit of Silo history. He tells her that the rebellion in Silo 17 went down just a week before Founders Day, and naturally he's curious if Silo 18 celebrates it too. But Juliet explains to him that they don't, and instead her Silo has a different holiday called Freedom Day. As Solo looks at a blue backpack, he starts reminiscing about a girl he used to sit next to in class named Lapis. Now here's where things get interesting. Juliet does the math and realizes that if he was in that class during the rebellion, he would have been around 10 or 11 years old, and that doesn't quite add up, so she presses him. But Solo quickly backtracks, calling himself clearing it up by saying he didn't mean that exact backpack. But we gotta be real, because his reaction was pretty suspicious, so is he hiding something? Then there's this detail about Lapis. Solo mentions that she said her name meant blue, just like his eyes. That leads Juliet to asking about his eyes, and here's the callback. If you remember, when we first met Solo, his eyes were two different colors, a condition called heterochromia. This can be genetic, but it's also something that can happen due to trauma or disease. When Juliet presses him for more, Solo shuts it down, saying he doesn't like to talk about it. But it's fair to speculate. I mean, could this injury be tied to the rebellion or something that happened after? So Juliet literally takes the plunge. Her cobbled together dive rig gets the job done, but not without near-death thrills. Solo offers reassurance with his nickname for her. "You'll be okay, Captain Nemo." No tools, no backup plan, just raw determination, and Solo pumping air like his life depends on it. She struggles to smash open a cabinet with her bare hands, and I'm yelling at the screen saying, "Damn it, woman, bring a screwdriver next time." While Juliet's busy underwater, Solo's paranoia ramps up. His obsession with locking the vault feels like more than just a quirk. Is he hiding something or someone? And also, side note, is anyone else getting major "there's more to this guy than meets the eye" vibes? Especially with all the paranoia about leaving the vault unlocked. I mean, Solo, buddy, it's just you and Juliet who's sneaking in, right? But then again, there are those creepy POV shots from earlier episodes that make you think that maybe they're not in Silo 17 alone. Once Juliet reaches back to the surface, Solo suddenly panics, taking off talking about how he has to get back to the vault. Without waiting, he bolts back and Juliet follows. Once they arrive, the vault is just as he left it, closed and locked. But here's where things start to unravel. Solo frantically punches in the code to open the vault, but it doesn't work. He tries again and there's still nothing. One more failed attempt will lock him out for good. That's when he turns on Juliet, accusing her of changing the code. But Juliet calmly reminds him that she's been with him the whole time, so there's no way she could have done anything. Then, in true Juliet fashion, she cracks a joke suggesting that he should probably write the code down. But Solo isn't having it. He explodes in anger before trying the code one last time, and that third time is the charm. It works. But instead of relief, Solo turns defensive, barking at Juliet, telling her to stay back before locking himself inside the vault once again. Also, I have to mention that I think Juliet took the gorilla route of learning to swim. I don't remember her ever learning to swim since the first season. So it seems that this season, in this episode in particular, is where she learns to swim. If anyone can reference back to any moment in season 1 where she did learn to swim, please point it out. But it seems like she just learned to swim in this moment, which once again, like I've already mentioned, is the gorilla method. She just kind of learned on the fly. But it was also kind of strange, especially after seeing her fear in season 1 when she was trying to reach that door underwater that George told her about. It seems like she was afraid of the water. And it makes a lot of sense that not many people in the silo would know how to swim. I mean, many people probably wouldn't know how to swim. We've never seen pools, and there's never really been a reason for them to go underwater. So yeah. Now Juliet's left sitting outside, clearly frustrated and hurt. She tells Solo that she thought they'd moved past this, that they were finally starting to trust each other. She tries to get through to him by opening up about her own fears, how lonely and terrified she was when she left her silo, fully expecting to die. She reminds him that he's not the only one who's scared, but Solo just returns complete radio silence. That's when Juliet changes tactics, asking, Captain Nemo wants to know more about the circus and animals Solo had talked about before. It's a simple but human moment, a way to remind him of their connection. And just as she's about to leave, she catches a glimpse of him peeking out from around the door. Slowly, he starts talking again, continuing his stories about the circus animals. It's a small breakthrough, but an important one. This scene perfectly captures the fragility of trust between these two, showing how hard it is for Solo to let anyone in after everything he's been through. Meanwhile, Nox and Shirley piece together some dark silo history in the caverns, names of past rebels etched into the walls. Turns out, rebellions happen every generation, and guess who gets blamed? Mechanical. They realize that their department has the power to shut down the whole silo, which is huge leverage. And in this moment, a plan forms. They want to head over to Judicial and demand answers from Judge Meadows. It's bold, risky, and feels like something that could go horribly wrong. Sims is worried about this mechanical uprising, but Bernard plays it cool, or let's be real, manipulative. He plays it manipulatively, if that's a word. His passive-aggressive, sure let them meet the judge plan isn't about peace. It's all about setting them up to fail. But there's tension brewing between them, especially as Sims starts noticing Bernard's less than transparent moves. Like, why is Bernard suddenly so invested in Lucas's sentencing review? Clearly something is off. Sims, for his part, is feeling the heat, especially when Bernard hints that he knows Sims has been creeping on his shady dealings. So we can assume at this point that things aren't looking good for Sims and that shadow promotion. Alright, so let's break down this power play here. Sims and his wife Camille are trying to untangle the mystery of what happened to Judge Meadows, why she spiraled into alcoholism. But Sims has a bigger agenda here, and he suggests impeaching Meadows as a way to rally the upper levels and consolidate power. But Camille has a better idea. She points out that Sims doesn't actually need to go through all the bureaucratic hoops to make it happen. Just threatening impeachment would be enough to shake things up, and the looming possibility would send a clear signal to Bernard, nudging him to sideline Meadows without Sims having to lift a pin. And here's where it gets juicy, the real juicy part. This isn't about taking Meadows out. It's about creating an opening for Sims to quietly step into her role as Bernard's shadow. This scene is a masterclass in backroom politics, and you can just feel the gears turning as Sims and Camille scheme their way closer to the top. Judge Meadows is reviewing Lucas's case and his harsh sentence. Lucas doesn't bring anything new to the table, and Meadows isn't exactly warm and fuzzy here. She coldly reminds him that the silo needs metal, so like it or not, he's off to the mines. It's grueling, dangerous work, but somebody's got to do it. Oh, and also she mentions that he'll be wearing yellow coveralls, which is a fun little nod for book readers who know that each department has its own distinct uniform color. Lucas, clearly frustrated, asked why she even bothered granting his review. It's not like she's being helpful. But then things take a turn. Meadows dismisses the raiders and cuts straight to the point. She wants to know about the lights in the night sky, and we gotta remember that Lucas had a quirky little hobby of tracking patterns on the cafeteria screen, trying to figure out what those mysterious lights are. And since no one has been outside, they don't realize that they're stars. Lucas gives his best guess, explaining rudimentary ideas about orbits and Earth's rotation, though he doesn't actually know the terminology. And here's the weird part. They know the name of the sun, but not the stars. That's kind of strange. But anyway, Meadows drops a bombshell in this moment. She knows exactly what the lights are, and she explains stars, their composition and how they work, and even confirming Lucas's theories. And this now raises a huge question. How in the hell does she even know all of this? I mean, is it from the stash of illegal books she has? And if she already knew all of this, then why even drag Lucas in for a hearing in the first place? I mean, is she just trying to fish for his theories? Then out of nowhere, Meadows calls the guards back and reduces Lucas's is sentenced to 5 years. He leaves totally baffled, and honestly, so are we. But just when you think the scene's over, Meadows looks out of her window and sees banners unfurled with slogans calling for her impeachment. Talk about a damn mic drop moment. Then we cut to Bernard, who gets a notification about the impeachment banners targeting Meadows, and what's his response? He downs a couple of shots and waits for her to show up. And when she does, Meadows wastes no time accusing him of orchestrating the impeachment campaign. He denies it, of course, and chalks it up to people being scared. But Meadows pushes back, explaining that Mechanical isn't asking for the world. They just want better suits and a chance for a couple of people to go outside, explore, and return. But Bernard immediately shuts that down, reminding her that it's strictly prohibited by the pact. And Meadows, in turn, admits that she wasn't planning to approve it anyway. Her plan was to form a committee to study the idea and quietly kill it with bureaucratic red tape. That is classic political maneuvering right there. Then Bernard flips the script and apologizes for the impeachment drama. But Meadows waves it off, saying she doesn't care because she'll be gone before it matters. And that's when Bernard gets real cozy, inviting her over to his apartment for dinner to discuss their next moves. Oh, and also he casually mentions how he'll have her suit ready because he knows that she won't be able to turn that down. She agrees, and Bernard drops another tidbit here, telling her that the Mechanical group will be coming up 2 hours later. Meadows also tells him about her recent chat with Lucas, confirming Bernard's suspicions that Lucas is dangerous, which we already know he isn't at all. She says that she reduced his sentence to make it look like Judicial was fair, but she doesn't expect him to survive more than a year in the mines. And Bernard agrees, clearly playing the long game here. Then in the final moment after she leaves, Bernard pulls something out of his pocket. It's small and it looks like it might be the key to the vault. Now we don't know for sure, but if it is, that could mean big things are about to go down, because what could he possibly need from the vault at this time? Now let's jump into the dinner scene. Bernard kicks things off by setting the mood with an illegal relic, a record, while he cooks up a nice chicken and mushroom dinner for Meadows. Damn, that's even making me hungry. Over small talk and a seemingly pleasant meal, Meadows shifts the conversation, asking if she can try on her suit. And this is where things get tense, and it's just a cold ass scene. Bernard just stares at her in silence, and this is when it all hits her. There is no suit. He never intended to let her go outside, and honestly we all saw this coming when he didn't even bother writing down her measurements. Meadows quickly pieces it together and asked where the poison was, and he tells her that it was in the mushrooms. When she asked him how long she has, he calmly tells her she only has minutes. Damn. She demands to know why, and Bernard explains that it's all about the order. Her death, he claims, will unite the silo. That's when Meadows takes a sharp turn, asking about the hard drive Juliet had, and Bernard reveals that he destroyed it, except we know that he only smashed the casing and kept the disk. When Bernard presses her about why it mattered, Meadows drops a bombshell, telling him that it had to do with Salvador Quinn, the head of IT from 140 years ago. Apparently, he wrote a partially coded letter that Meadows deciphered, but when Bernard demands to know what it said, she refuses to tell him. We haven't heard this name before until now, and it sounds like he left some key information for future generations. Then, in a gut-wrenching moment, Meadows confesses something deeply personal. She explains that when she stepped down as Bernard's shadow 25 years ago, she lied. It wasn't because she didn't want to be tethered to him. She actually would have been happy by his side, but she knew that he could never fully give himself to her. Bernard, clearly rattled, asked where she went during the 4 days she vanished before quitting, but she refuses to answer. And we have to think that this is in some way connected to the code that she decrypted. So did she hide the information somewhere for safekeeping, or did she access some new secret area of the silo that she can't discuss? I mean, what does this mean? As her time runs out, Meadows makes one final request: to go to the cafeteria to look outside one last time. But Bernard denies her that small mercy, and instead, in a twisted act of kindness, he pulls out another illegal relic, a pair of VR goggles. He guides her through the lush imagery of Costa Rica as she marvels at its beauty. And you can tell in this moment that Bernard genuinely cares for her, but it's painfully clear that he cares more about the order. And also, I'm kind of surprised that Apple didn't use the Apple Vision Pro for this scene, because Apple loves to do product placement in their shows. If you've seen a lot of Apple TV shows, you guys know that this is a fact. And this seemed like a really good time to use the Apple Vision Pro, so I'm kind of surprised they didn't go that route. In her final moment, she asked the question that haunted everyone, even haunts us as viewers. Hell, we all want to know the answer to this question. What did we do, and how did we lose this world? And Bernard doesn't answer. Instead, he kisses her forehead as she slips away. And this scene is equal parts heartbreaking and chilling, showcasing Bernard's ruthless loyalty to the order and the tragic cost of his devotion. God damn you, Bernard, you cold bastard. As Bernard Bernard washes up after dinner. Sims arrives and he tells him to do as he instructed and to meet him at another location. Leaving Sims to do the dirty work, he opens the door to the bedroom and unfolds a cloth containing a knife. Then, checking in with the sheriff's department, Billings leaves his wife and baby behind and she is not happy about it. She's upset that he's putting himself in danger to deal with the craziness and leaving her alone during this chaotic time. And we can feel the tension as Billings is torn between his duty and his family, but his sense of responsibility to keep the peace is what ultimately wins. Next, we get Deputy Hank explaining the latest chaos to Billings, including the firebomb attack and the shooting incident. Hank reveals that no one recognized the bomber, who we already know was Patrick Kennedy, and we also know that Judicial swooped in and hauled him off before the sheriff's department could even get involved. But he is very suspicious, so Billings asks to see Cooper's body. Here's where it gets weird. Billings and Hank head to the morgue, but surprise, surprise, there is no body. Juno, the morgue attendant, insists that there was only one body there that morning and Judicial already took it. But Hank pushes back, saying that there were two bodies there the day before. But then Juno doubles down, claiming that she locked the door and has no idea how one body just vanished. And when Billings presses her to describe the body that she says was Cooper, she ends up describing Patrick Kennedy. That's right, the missing bomber. Things begin to heat up when Billings gets on the radio with Deputy Molly, who drops some critical intel. She confirms that two men, Danny and Patrick Kennedy, were taken into custody during the search for Juliet. And she confirms that Patrick matches the description of the body that was in the morgue. And Deputy Hank adds to the mystery, saying that Patrick wasn't officially declared dead. I mean, sure, he wasn't moving, but he was also shot in the shoulder, which is not exactly a fatal wound. So the question for them now is, what's going on here? Is Patrick Kennedy really dead, or did Judicial make him disappear? And we already know why Judicial is so eager to keep this under wraps, because he's their pawn. And this scene seems to be setting up a major division between the sheriff's department and Judicial, which could definitely light the fuse that's needed to set off the events of a rebellion. Then with Carla, as she joins up with Walker, Knox, and Shirley as they trek up the stairs towards Judicial, Knox asked her if she's got them, and she says that she knows red from green, clearly pointing out the fact that she has something to use as some sort of signal. The mechanical envoy is waiting in the park by the fountain, anxiously checking for any word from Judge Meadows about their request for a meeting. And while they wait, Carla finally asked Walker the question that's been on all of our minds. How did she go from 25 years of crippling agoraphobia to suddenly waltzing around the silo like it's no big deal? And Walker's answer is that the day she left to grab the good tape for Juliet and ran into Carla, it just hit her. Why had she wasted 25 years holed up in her room? According to her, she couldn't remember. Now, I don't know about you, but that feels like a pretty underwhelming explanation for such a massive change. According to a recent interview with showrunner Graham Yost, this convo reignites their relationship. But as I just mentioned, that was a pretty underwhelming explanation. I mean, she just doesn't know anymore? Something so monumental in your life and you don't know what caused it. That's just weird. But you guys be sure to let me know how you feel about that down below. Meanwhile, Knox and Shirley are talking strategy. They're sticking to their demand for permission to step outside, take a look around, and come back with answers. Both of them agree that they'd volunteer for the job, which is actually a pretty bold move considering what happens to people who go outside. And also in this moment, Knox gets personal, admitting that not knowing whether Juliet is alive or dead is tearing him apart. Then we have Billings, who's clearly caught in the middle of this growing tension. He sends two deputies to escort the mechanical crew to Judicial. They won't take them the whole way because the deputies don't want the upper level residents thinking they're siding with mechanical. And this small detail really drives home the hostility and division between the levels, and it sets the stage for even more conflict. Knox, Shirley, and their crew march into enemy territory demanding justice. And the mechanical crew's journey to Judicial is tense, and when Carla drops the red ball to cut that power, it is chef's kiss for the drama. I mean, they are seriously playing hardball now, but Bernard is one step ahead. When Knox and Shirley finally walk in to get their meeting with Meadows, it is a shocking surprise that she is dead with the knife in her chest, framed to make mechanical look like assassins. And the staged crime scene is textbook villainy, and the mechanical team's realization is heartbreaking. But here's where the stakes skyrocket as Knox and Shirley try to escape. Sims rallies the crowd with a fiery and totally false speech, and the silo's residents explode with a chilling call for justice. The mob's chant echoes through the stairwell as the race is now on. Will mechanical survive the wrath of the silo? I don't know, but we'll find out next time on Dragon Ball. I'm just joking. But it is not looking good for them, guys. It's not looking good at all. This episode is packed with revelations, heartbreak, and a heaping dose of paranoia. Bernard proves to us once again why he's the guy pulling all the strings, while Juliet and Solo's uneasy alliance keeps us guessing. The episode ends on a knife's edge, figuratively and literally, setting up what seems to be a promising and explosive finale. So what do you guys think? Is Bernard playing the long game, or is his grip on power slipping? And what's Solo's deal? Lonely survivor or an unreliable narrator? Which is it? But you guys know the drill. Drop your theories down in the comments down below. And as always, guys, thank you for watching.